So for today's class, we are basically going to look at how you can create basic API endpoints, and we are also going to look at parameterized routing. So parameterized routing, what exactly is parameterized routing? So quickly, quickly, we have we will navigate to our project folder, as well as doing what, activating our virtual environment, so that our project, our VS Code can have access to those dependencies that have been installed. Okay, so first of all, APIs to construct APIs using fast API. APIs are basically nothing but collections of functions, right? So you tend to see that literally all the time we mostly be writing functions, and that is how we simply just create APIs in Python. So they are basically functions that has a decorator and must do what, and must return a specific value. So we see how we can do that quickly. So I'll navigate to my project folder. Yours could be some other place, wherever yours is. So in my case, mine is in CodeCamp for beginner and project one. So this is the project folder that we intend to use. And within this project folder, I have my virtual environment there. I have the main folder there, which will be the folder that will be holding our entire script. So I'll just navigate that here to project one from my terminal. Okay. And I will just simply say change directory to project one, and then I will turn on my virtual environment. That should be activate. So there should be A. Okay, we have script is missing, script slash activate. And then we cd into main, and then we open up main in VS Code. All right. So this is our project folder and specifically our project file. So we basically writing for now. We're basically writing our entire code on this one particular file. So like we say, in web development, we have basically two sections. Okay, we have the front end and we have the back end. Right. So basically, what the back end does is they accept a specific kind of request and then process that request or fetch a specific resource and then will send it back to the user. So that's basically what we'll be building. We basically doing well creating routes. When I mean route, I'm basically saying endpoints, or when I mean endpoint, I'm basically saying URLs, right? So your APIs are nothing but bunch of URLs that process request and return a specific resource or return a specific information. That's basically what your API is, or what an API is. So we're gonna accept a specific route, sorry, a specific kind of request, right? When someone goes to a specific endpoint or a specific route or a specific URL, right? So if for those of us that did the previous class, the currency conversion, we tend to say that the API that we use was basically what a URL. So, and I'm sure that if you actually go through the documentation of that API, because every API comes with its own documentation. So if you are building an API, you must have the documentation of that API, because other developers may likely want to make requests to your endpoint. So they should know what requests are they making and what are they expecting to see as the return result. So I'm sure that we went to the currency converter API documentation, and then we saw that to get a specific kind of information, we make a specific kind of request to a specific URL. I believe you're following. So basically, so we're gonna replicate that same.
No, Sam, can you please repeat again? Sorry.
Too fast. All right.
Yeah, particularly about endpoints.
Okay. All right. So let's say that again. So I'm saying that's APIs. Okay, they are basically in fast API, creating an API using fast API, like basically was a collection of functions. right? For another framework, it could be classes, it could be whatever, right? But when it comes to fast API, they are basically functions that has a function decorator. You don't know what function decorator is, there is absolutely no problem. Okay, I will talk about that as we proceed. So so now I'm saying that if for those of us that did the tax, the previous the last tax, the informational tax too, that we tend to see that the API we used, right, have a specific documentation. But because every API has documentation, except when we went to somewhere and they were and copy someone's code and pasted it, which I am aware that most of us did that. Okay, which I am aware that most of us actually did that. So all right, so I was saying sorry for that break. Um, but for those of us that actually did the currency conversion tax, okay, so we requested that we make a specific that we make use of the request library to do what to fetch information or data or resource using what an API, and then we realized that what that most of our APIs are basically URL. So when I mean URL, they are basically this. So let's assume if we go back to our browser and then we look at something like let's see weather forecast, weather information. Look at weather information API, then you tend to see that your API is basically what a URL. So it means that when you make a specific kind of request to a specific URL, you know what you get a specific information. That's basically what API is. So I'm looking for one. So if you look at this particular yes, sir. All right, so if we look at this specific API, so we will get to see that this here that this here is so we can see that this here becomes our let me just put this up our API URL. Let us see that I'll copy this. Right, so I'll just copy this. Right, so this becomes let me just clean it up. What is exactly? So this is what we want. This is what we want. So if we this is this is an API endpoint, right? And then every like I said, every API has a documentation, right? Because for now, if I don't go through the documentation, I don't really know if this URL need a specific kind of value to do what for it to do what to send this request, or need to know what a specific kind of request that can be made to this URL. Because every URL you have on the browser, every URL can actually accept a specific kind of request. All right. So there's no URL that can take more than two requests, like get request and a post request at the same time. So if it's taking get, then that URL is for get request. If it's a post, then there's another URL for post request and so on and so forth. So if we now navigate to the documentation, we could see that if we navigate to the documentation, we could see that this is basically this could be basically be a documentation that that tells you what or how to do what to actually make use of the data itself. So you can have here you have what here you have the API documentation saying that what that the endpoint. Remember, when dealing with API, you're basically going to hear endpoints, and when you hear of endpoint, it's basically what URL. So he said that to actually make use of this API, that it must visit what this endpoint or this URL. So this URL here is relative. What do I mean by it's relative? So that URL simply means that after the actual domain, that you need to provide this remaining part of the URL. That's why if you go back to what we have in our VS Code, you can have that. Let's put this up there. It means that the URL for that API it should be this, right? For making a URL an API request. So and then you also get to see that that this URL takes a specific kind of request. So it says that that this accepts a geographical coordinate list of. So these are basically things that this URL can actually comes with. So here it gives you an instance, or shall I say an example, saying that you could actually attach this and then set a specific value, and that will actually work. Are you making sense? Should I say that again?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I'll say it one more time. I'll take it one more time. Right. So let's pay attention properly. Okay, this time around. Okay. So APIs. Okay. APIs. They are basically URL. So APIs. They are what? They are basically URL. So this should be this. They are basically URL, or you mostly hear endpoints. So let's put endpoint there. Endpoint. Okay. So and then this endpoint must do what? Must take a specific request, which in this case, a specific HTTP request, right? And can also take, can also have optional parameters, right? Optional parameters, right? Optional parameters in the sense that you see that there are some route that has a specific value. What do I mean? Let me show you a typical example of one. So let's look for a block, any simple block, blog site. Let's look for any simple blog site. Looking for a simple one. So let's see ghosts. So let's look at ghosts. Yeah. So I'm looking for. Okay, something like this. Let's see. Okay, so this is what I am actually looking for. So something like this. Now, if you look closely at this URL, right, we have ghost.org/marketplace. And what happens is that it basically gives us a list of things that are for sale, right? But then if we click on a specific item, we click on a specific item, say I click on this item, we would likely see that, okay, so let's copy this URL and keep, right? And we'll come back and we'll reference something. So I'll keep this man here. I'll keep this man there. And I'll click on another item. So I click on this other item and we keep copy that URL. We keep it somewhere here. And if you click on another item, say one random item, one more, we have something like this. Now, if you look at this URL, you see that these URL are almost the same, except one thing is changing. So you see that for these URLs are almost the same, except this last part of this URL is ending. So we say that there's some URL that comes with that kind of these values here are URL parameters, meaning that that it is being specified in a URL and is used to do what to fetch a specific information, right? So I say it's optional. So there's some URL that comes with these kinds of values, okay? Now those values are being used to do what to fetch a specific information and then displayed on the web page, right? So now I'm saying that there's some URL that comes with optional parameters, but in all, basically your API are basically what a URL that takes a specific kind of requests and may also contain what optional parameters like the age, the is, the glow, and then those optional parameter is being used to do what for querying, or it's being used to do what to fetch a specific resource from a database or thereabouts. And then this man here must also do what must also return a specific JSON JSON response. That's basically what an API is. So it's a URL, right, that accepts a specific HTTP request, can also have optional, can also have parameters, and then at the end of it all, it must return a specific JSON response. So a typical example of an API is this. So that is an API. It's a URL, and then this URL must do what take a specific request. So it means that if I should make a GET request to this, then I should get a specific kind of what JSON response. So let's try this out. Now we know that there are different kinds of requests which we'll talk about. So GET request for now is basically a kind of request where you basically just go to your browser and type. So when you go to your browser and then you type a specific URL, you're making a GET request, right? So get is basically a kind of request you make when you're not submitting any information. But then if you go onto someone's site and then you submit an information, right? Or submit any item. That's basically a post request, right? So if you put this in here and then you click on this, so nothing happened, right? Nothing happened, right? Nothing actually happened because we don't have to specify any information, because remember every API has what a documentation, and if you go back to the documentation, which is what we have here, so it says that we can do that we need to do what specify any that all URL parameters are listed below. So that we have to do what we have to specify any of these parameters to do what to get a specific information. Any of these parameters to do what to get a specific information. So if we try that again, and then we specify one parameter. So if we go back to what we had before, so I'll copy this one. Right, so if you go back to what we have here, which was this, so you can see that after the actual API route, that we can do what that we can specify query parameters. In this case, latitude, longitude, and the rest of them. So I could just copy this and specify just one parameter and go back to our site and then make a GET request and then specify what latitude. And what happens is that, okay, so it says that here that both latitude and longitude must be available. So like I said, this API has the documentation, and I'm sure that if you go back again, then we could see that that longitude and latitude is what is required. So that means we have to provide two of them. So we just provide another value for the longitude, and then we could do what we could get the weather information for a specific for that specified point. So that's that. So this becomes what your API, right? That takes what a specific request, which in this case is GET request, and may have what optional parameters like the query parameters, and then do what at the end of the day it will process that request and do what and return a JSON information like this, which is which is similar to what to our dictionary in Python. Is that okay? So we are basically going to create a similar thing where we have to do what? Also provide what? A URL that should take what? That should take a specific kind of request, and then we process that request and then do what? And then we return what? A JSON information like this. That's the workflow of how your API will work. So a URL takes a specific kind of request, process it, and do what? And return a JSON information like this. Is that okay? Is that okay? All right. So someone hand is pressed. You can ask your question. I'm going to ask a question.
Sir, please, I'm sorry to take you back. I didn't get the part where you got the URL, like the long one, that long one. I missed that.
Long.
No, okay. not this, the one on the VS Code.
Okay, the one in VS Code. So
yes.
That was a sample URL that we got from the documentation. So we just remove the unnecessary the unnecessary parameters that we don't want, like the relative humidity, the hourly. We remove the wind speed. We remove all these things, the current and the rest of them. So we basically just use the required one. So for this particular API, the owner of the API said that in order to make a request, that you must provide two query parameters, which in this case, latitude and longitude. So we just provided those two required ones and left out the rest.
Excuse me, sir, when we are providing this information, because I had an issue. This very one gave me tough time. This very tag gave me tough time. I had an issue. I say URL is equals to, and then I put it in curly braces. But what I forget to add is that F at the front, and I put the longitude in a kind of curly bracket.
Okay.
So I don't know. Can you just show us one sample of how we can just add the longitude to this very URL now, so that let us just see. Yes.
All right. So I'll clear this up one more time. So let's do that. Now the curly braces you're talking about is simply what we call string formatting. So there are different ways that we can format string. In your spare time, you guys can actually look that up. String formatting. So there are different ways we can format strings, and basically string formatting is more like a way where we can insert variables into what a string. So you agree with me that these are all what strings. That's because they're wrapping what a quotation. Remember, anything in quotes in Python is seen as a string. So this is what a string. So now, assuming I want to pass a variable into this string, so I can do what is called string formatting, where I can pass in external values into what our strings like this, okay, and make those values to be dynamic. So let's assume that the values of longitude was supposed to come from the user, all right. So and then we know how to pass in our input field now, right? So in this case, I'll just give it a specific value, right? In this case, but if you want to make yours to be dynamic, then you can do what? You can use the input function there. And the latitude here, I'll make it to be what? 13.4, right? And then I want to pass in these two values into what? Into our string. Now there are different ways you can do this, right? If you look at string formatting, there are a lot of them. There are different ways you can do this, but then the most convenient one, or the one I prefer to use, is F-string formatting. F-string formatting. You can still look that up. It's part of string formatting. No one wants to look up string formatting in Python, you will see it. F-string formatting. So F-string formatting is this. So to actually carry out an F-string formatting, you simply put F before your string. So when you put F like that before your string, and then it means that this string can accept external values. But then that external values have to be provided within what a curly braces. So if I want to pass in longitude value into this URL, then I could just simply go to where I have longitude and do what? Provide a curly braces and pass in what? And pass in longitude there. And the value of longitude will be passed to what? To that string. I can still add some arithmetic calculations there, like long plus 10, and this will still work, right? So it gives you room where you can carry out where you can pass value as well as doing what? Carry out some basic arithmetic operations there. So same thing happens with the latitude. So you just go, you do what? You provide curly braces and then pass in your value. Right, and then you can do what? You can make you can actually import your request library and then fire up a GET request to that URL, and that will work. You understand?
How do we fire up a GET request?
So you like I said, GET requests, right, are basically the kind of requests that we go to our browser and do what, and then we simply type. But then we can automate that with Python. We can automate that with Python. And how do you do that? So instead of doing what, of going to your browser, you can use the GET request to do what? To actually do that. So what you could do is you could simply import requests. Okay. So at the moment, I don't have requests installed. So what I can do is I can pip install it. So I'll go to my browser and just say pip install request. So unfortunately, the request is not doesn't come alongside Python installation. So you have to actually get that installed. So once you've done
I
that,
also noticed that issue too.
so once you've done that, then you can simply make your request. So in this case, instead of copying this URL and going to your browser and paste it, you can basically automate it from here. So I can simply say make use of the request library and fire up a GET request. So when you hit the click, you have different kind of requests. So there's a GET request there, and there's also a POST request. I remember this API here basically accepts GET request, which means that you have to do what? Go to your browser and type that out. So I'll do this GET, and then within that I'll just provide my URL, and then I can assign this to a variable if I want. Let it be known that that because I've solved this, that I can no longer create any future tags pertaining to currency conversion, unfortunately. All right, so I will simply just you can print this out if you want. You can just print this out, and this will come in a format that doesn't really make sense. So at times it does take time, because remember, this is actually what I'm doing here. This line of code here is similar to you copying this URL and going to your browser and pasting it and clicking on enter. So that whole process of doing that can just be automated with just this one line of code, right? And then we get what we have here, what is a response. As we dive deeper into the field of fast API, we talk about response. So now we have a response of 200, which in this case it means that request was sent successfully. So that request was sent successfully. So if you want to actually see the JSON format, you can unserialize that by simply saying data.json, and that will unbox that. And we can simply assign this to a result if we want. And then we just simply print the result. And this will give us a dictionary, right? This will give us a dictionary of whatever was fetched from that URL. So if I run this again, I should now have so we have what? A dictionary. So if I was interested in the value of longitude, then I could just simply fetch the longitude value in this case. So I'll just simply come here and say, give me just the longitude value, which in this case, I will just say the long should be equals to. So in our case, we were interested what in the conversion value. So you simply just get that value and do what and do it whatever we intended on doing. So I just say get me the longitude value, and then I could just print this out for us. And that right. So you could see. So we have the response of 200. We boxed it out, and then we have what we had a dictionary. And since this is a dictionary or a JSON, of course, a JSON kind of structure, we can do what if we can get the value by doing what by using square brackets to go and providing what the key, which in this case longitude, and which is what it is 62.5. Do we understand? Do we understand?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's sinking in.
All right. It is sinking. It is sinking. So we're basically going to do similar thing, right? So that's what we'll be doing throughout the remaining time of this bootcamp. We are basically going to be providing URLs that should accept a specific request and do what, process it and do what, and return something similar like this, a JSON structure like this, right? That's what we're going to be doing, right, in the remaining time. And then we let those that will consume it to what to make requests and get whatever information they see fit or they see need for. Okay, so that is our job, right? You're gonna be doing this. Okay. Any other question before we start to see how we can create a URL that should take a specific kind of request, process, and do or give back a specific response? Anyone? Any other question? Any other question? All right, so no other question. So let's see. So let's create a very simple route. Let's create a very simple route and let's do what? Accept a specific kind of request, process it and do what? And give a specific response. So I'll just finish off. All right, so to create an API endpoint or an API URL or an API route in Fast API, we have to do what? We have to actually bring in the library into our source code, and then we can start doing what? Using it. So it means that we have to have API available, Fast API available in our file. And how do we do that? We can do what? We can import it in. If you remember, importation back then in Python, we are still going to do the same importation. And this around, we want to import everything that that is there in Fast API. So I can do that by simply saying from Fast API, right? Sorry, that should be from, not from. From Fast API, import Fast API. So that is the function or the class that we're going to be using to do what? To create our endpoint or our URL that should do what? That should accept a specific kind of request. Okay. So we look at that, and then what next thing we want to do again is to instantiate what? Fast API. And how do you do that? To instantiate, since this is a function, we can simply just do what? Invoke it. Right. So it means that I'm calling on Fast API, so I can do what? So I can start doing what? Using whatever sub modules that lives in that file or in that function, right? So like a specific route, a specific HTTP request. If I want to actually do that, then I can actually do fast API, then dot the HTTP request. So how do we do this? So since I don't want to be instantiating this all the time, for each time I wish to use a specific module that lives there, so I can simply just assign this to a variable. So this variable can be anything, but by convention, it's usually what? App. So if you look at someone else's Fast API code, you are likely going to see app, right? So, but that can be anything. There's no special naming. The app is not special. It has nothing. It has nothing attributed to Fast API. So, but the main thing here is that we've instantiated Fast API, and then we assign that instance to what? To a variable app, meaning that for any time we wish to reference a specific function that lives within Fast API, we don't necessarily need to be instantiating again. We can actually get that by referencing what? The variable what? App. And then next thing now is to do what is to create your route. So to create a route is quite simple. It's quite simple. So there are three things that is required to do what to create an API endpoint or an API route. So number one is that you need what? You need a function. So your routes are mostly what function. So you need a function, and then that function must do what, must return a value. So that means your function must have what? A return statement. And then you need what? A function decorator. And a function decorator here is basically more like adding an additional information to what? To a function, which in this case, that decorator will actually determine the type of HTTP request alongside with the route of the API. Okay. So and remember, these routes are always relative. What do I mean by relative? They are basically routes that are being attached after the domain of the first of the after your URL domain. So that's what I mean by relative. It means that they are basically the part that's been attached after the domain of your URL. So in this case, I will provide what. Remember, we need three things. So I just jot this down. We need the function decorator, which will hold what the type of HTTP requests alongside with the route or the URL or endpoints, whichever one. But endpoints is what you will likely hear all the time. And then we need the function itself. And then what? The function return statement. The function return statement. All right. So let's see how we can put that up and create one simple route. So I'll just create one decorator. So to create a decorator, we simply use the @ sign. So you use the @ sign to do what? To let Python know that this is what is a decorator for the function below. Now your decorator stays above your function. So Python knows that decorator is for the function in below. And the way the decorator works is that it simply adds additional information to that function. So in this case, we are going to let Fast API to provide that additional information by say app dot the HTTP request type, which in this case is the GET request. We want the GET request, and then within your GET request, you want what? The route. With the route, the route there will be what? A string. So if you want to actually follow a documentation that we just used that says that the API lives in this route v1 forecast. Okay, we're gonna change that. So I'm not gonna use that for illustration's sake. So it means that that we're gonna do what? In order for us to make a GET request to this particular route, that we have to append what? Like we have to assign what? This after what? The domain of our platform or of our app, right? So after the domain, we assign that, and then we do what? We get the, and then this route we get to do what? To fire up. So after that has been defined, now follows is that you can say that if we leave that like that, we have a red line underlying there, showing that that once we provide a decorator like this, we must provide the function for it. So in this case, we do what? Our normal function, right? So next I'll say Dave, and I'll just call this function root function for now. Root function, and then for now this function will not take anything, so leave it the way it is, and then it must return something. So in this case, I'll just return a very simple JSON kind of format, which in this case I'll say message, and the message here it would be our first API and point, and that is that. Done what you've created one endpoint for your API, and just make the rest of the route is going to be the same way, right? The decorator that takes what that takes the type of request. So basically, what's will likely going to change will likely be your request and the route, alongside with whatsoever code you have down there, and probably the function name. But everything is going to follow the same standard, this same structure, right? So we have the post, we have the rest of them, we have the put, but for now, for this beginner's chat, we're gonna stick to what to get and post. That's that. Those two requests. So now, if we've done that, and then we want to do what test out this our URL, all right? So far we don't have the URL. There's no way we can go to our browser to know what to actually navigate this, right? To know what to get this route, to do what to fire up. So how do we get a URL? So we usually we could have just actually deploy this online, probably buy a domain and deploy this online, so that we can do what, so that we can just navigate down here to do what, to see that fire up. But then Fast API also gave us a module that we can do what, that we can spin up a local server. So a local server is more like it's more like your URL is being hosted, but then it's hosted within your machine. It means that only you can do what, can access it at that point. But then but then it gives you that feel as if your API is what is actually online and can be accessed by any other people. So how do we spin up that server? It's quite simple. Since we're in the directory, since our environment is still up and running, so let me clear this up. So that was me clearing that screen, nothing special. Okay, so now to actually spin up that server, we use what a module known as UVCon. So UVCon was actually being installed alongside your Fast API installation. To confirm that, you can simply do pip freeze, and then you will see UVCon module. So you have UVCon, there it is, UVCon, right? So this thing was installed when you did pip install Fast API. So we are going to use that module and spin up a development server, and then so we can do what, so we can actually go to our browser and navigate and see how our API will look like if we deploy it online, right? Eventually. So to do that, we use the command. Let me click this again. So to clear your command prompt, if it's too if you have a lot of things there, just use CLS. CLS then means clear screen. So and that will clear up the command prompt for you. So now we can do that by using the command UVCon, right? UVCon followed by the file name, all right? So we want to know which file, because your fast API file may have a lot of files. So now which file is controlling the rest of the file, all right? Which file is your main file that controls the rest of your file? So now you specify that file there, which in this case we have just one file for now. So I'll provide main. Please the file name without the extension, and then what follows is a colon, and then the instance of Fast API. So where was your Fast API first instantiated, which in this case it was here, right? Which was being assigned to the variable app. So you just come back there and provide that instance, which is what app, and then we can run that and that will work. But then there's additional flag that we can add to that, and that flag is --reload. Now what that --reload does is it will automatically be updating your server as you update your code, right? So you don't want to be coming to the server to run it to spin it up again when you change your code. So the --reload there will automatically be spinning up that server or be refreshing it, so that the new changes you've made to your code can work with your API. All right. So if I hit enter, then this will do what? Then this will create a local server, right? So and then do what? And provide us with a URL, kind of like a local a domain name that says that we can do what? That we can go there to view our API, which you could see from here, saying that's actually running on that URL. So you can copy that URL and then go to your browser and then check if your API is working. So I'll put it down here. Nothing should actually show. So it says that detail not found. It means that there's no route that has just the domain name. So the only route we have so far says that it is /b1/4 cast. Remember, this is relative, so it means that immediately after that domain, check for this other part, right? That what I mean by relative, by a relative part. So I can go back to there, can go back here and do what? Just put immediately after my domain, I can just paste that there and click on enter, and that should do what? That should now work. So for cast, let's be sure that our server is still running properly. It seems our server is not even moving at all. Server is not even moving at all. All right, so let's be sure that everything is working as it should be. Confirm that by saying this. Okay. Right. So what we want to do is we're going to make a post request from post1 to confirm that that is working. So it seems my server is taking time to pick up changes. Taking time to pick up changes. All right, let's be sure that everything is going as planned. Plan. Let's confirm that. All right, so let's spin up our postman. Let's make the request from postman. Sure, everything is working fine. All right, so let's copy this and let's make a request here from postman. So for those of us that actually did that, I believe that if you open your postman and then you should see this. I'm still having the same issue. Not the,
Were you supposed to import a request before using the get this thing?
no, sir.
Okay.
Let's see. Let's provide something else. Let's see if that will work. That request was one person. Right, so someone should put on their postman and replicate that code and make a request. Let me be sure that the probably is not from my softwares. Is anyone that wants to try it out? Replicate this code and hit run your server and make a get request. Let me be sure that my devices are working just fine. Is it is anyone that's doing that? All right. So Elvis, let's do that and let's be sure that everything is working just fine. You can just put a slash there. Instead, you use a slash there and then navigate to that endpoint and let's be sure that that is working. Be sure that's working. That worked, Mr. Elvis. So Mr. Elvis phone worked without. The problem is probably from my devices. Of course, that should work. That should work. That should work. Right. Let's see how we can. Is there any person that have tried and has worked on his or her device? Anyone tried and has worked on their devices? Does anyone else have tried that and it has worked on their device? Apart from Mr. Elvis. Right. So problem is probably from my end. So let me try opening that up in another browser. Let's see. Let's see if that open or if that will come up on another browser. So it's not see opening or not see coming up on the browser. Oh, fantastic. Oh, fantastic. So it's thinking there's not even firing up this file at all. Firing. Let's see. That didn't see work. Terminal. All right, guys. Uh, what the four ports for local hosts. Save and change the ports. All right, so let's try this. Let's see if this will work. I should change this port to something else. All right, so I think I will need to sort out my device. So the thing here is that I had to change the port. Someone just made something in the comment that I had to consider. So usually port 8000 is a default port for your local host, and they can change that port. So it seems that my 8000 port is either being used by another application at the moment, which I will figure that out after the class. So what I just did was I changed the port, and to change the port, you simply just add dash dash port, and then you specify the port you wanted, which in this case is what I did. So I specified 8080 instead of 8000. So that did work. Sorry for that delay. Port issues, port conflict. These are things we just get randomly. Okay, so that did work, and we could navigate to that, and then we do what we could see how our API will look like when actually being deployed. So it simply means that once you deploy this, what you're having here, 127.0.0.1 port 8080, yours can be port 8000, is more like your local machine, your local host. So it means that that URL only works for your machine. You can't share with someone. You can't send it on Discord and then I copy it and paste it on browser and see it. But then the moment you actually deploy this application, then this application will come with your own domain name or whatever domain name you put in, you actually make provision for. So you mean what that we have 127.0.0.1 port 8000 would now be replaced with probably a KodeCamp4.com. All right, and then whatever route you now specify in your APIs will now be accompanied by that. So in this case, where we had the first route being accompanied by v1/forecast, then those relative parts there will now be accompanied immediately after the domain itself. So since this is running as your local host, this becomes more like your domain name at the moment. So that means all the relative parts or all the parts you ever provide for your route will now be coming immediately after that. So if we have to put this down, and that was how it will be on local host, but this is how it will be where you do what you deploy this application. So for this particular route that we have here, is more like the root route. Okay, so this kind of route is not the root route, meaning that after this domain name, and then you attach a slash, then this should do what this should fire up. So naturally, without this slash, this will still fire up. That's because if you provide this slash and then hit the enter, it will fire up this, but then after that, this slash will be removed, right? So as far as nothing is coming after the slash, adding a slash immediately after doesn't really matter. Okay, so this kind of route is always known as the root route. So it's more like the actual domain itself. So it means that if I should go to port 8000, it will do what? It will fire up this man, because this man is more like nothing, right? Nothing, like no relative part, the actual domain name itself. But then even if after providing this domain name, and then they were providing this backslash that I said that that are the routes for this API, and if I provide that and click on my enter, then this will fire up this, but then after that, this will be removed. So if I copy this as it is now, and let me just run this up again. This will refresh. So if we go back again, and then I provide that slash, which is what's for our routes that we actually specified. So I click on that enter, you see that it actually didn't work, but then after that, the slash was being removed. Okay. Any question? Any question? Any question? All right, so we can have as many routes as possible, okay, because every route should have a specific request process and do was send a specific response. So I can still have another route, all right, that maybe we could talk about user profile, and I will call this profile user.
Sorry, sir. When you say route, do you also mean endpoint?
Yes, remember I said route or URL or endpoint. Okay, so we can have as many endpoints as possible, and then the endpoint to fire up this particular one would be when a user goes to the domain name and then add this relative part, user -me, then this should do what? This should fire up. So if I should now come here, and this should be user profile, that should return certain information. So this was for testing mode. This hello that I put here was for testing. So I have to be sure that it actually come through. which did not come through. So we'll have something like that that says name, and the name here could be Savior. Excuse me. The name there could be Savior Basi. And we have another thing, say track. The track here could be fast API beginner, and version here could just be 4.0. Right, so and then we can just fire that up, and we do what, and we also have a specific request here, and what, a URL. Now please, this URL cannot repeat itself, but then you can have multiple URL that has the same request method, but the URL must not repeat itself, because once it repeats itself, you happen that the first URL will only be the one firing up. So if I have this same URL but a different function name, say I have this same URL here, that is what user-me, but then I have a different function name, say item, right? That should return a message, or I should return item number, and then in this case, item number can be 10. You say that once I navigate to user-me, that the only thing that will keep firing up is always this man. So this man will never get the opportunity of getting to fire up. So if you go back to our browser and go to user-me, so relative path, remember, is relative immediately after your domain. So /user-me, and then I have the Savior Basi, the user detail there, the name, the track, and the what, and the version. But then if the other one is not firing up, right? This other route is not firing up. So this name actually matters, right? So the thing is that whichever what happens that once a request is made to your application, Fast API goes route by route in order. So you start from the first route to the next route till it finally matches that route and do a fire up that function. So the one it matches first, it fires up. So I think so what happens is that when we navigate to user-me, it checks here, it's not the route, and then it comes down to check for the other one, and then this one happens to match it. So it fires up. So it never comes down again to check if the other one has that same route. So so your URL should not always repeat themselves, but then your request method can always repeat. Okay, your request method can always do what? Repeat. So we can also have, but then if you have a method but the same URL, is two different things. Okay, so now if I make a get request to user.me, this will fire up. But if I make a push request to that same URL, this will do what actually fire up. So it checks for the URL. Okay, first of all, it checks for the method, and then it checks for what? The URL. Okay, so post with this URL is different from get with this what? URL. I'm making sense. So now, does it make a post request? Remember, a post request is what is more like you submitting a form, right? So you're not getting, but then we are sending, right? So it's more like the opposite of get. And so far, the browser only makes a get request, except you have a full-blown application that have a place where you can type in something and click on submit. But then it's not be nice just for us to test a post request. We now go ahead to do what? To build a front end. So as to do what? To make a post request. And that's why I said that we should all do what? Go and download Postman. So we use Postman to do what? To make every kind of request. The kinds of request that our browser will not permit us to do what to do. So I'll copy the same URL, but then I'll make what? A post request to it, which is what? A different route, or should I say a different, we should get what? A different response. The same route, but then is a different response. So I will replace this URL, right? I replace this URL, and then beside this you have what? A list of basically method. So we just pick post, right? So I said that for this track we focus on only get and post, leave the rest, focus on only get and post. And then for now we just do what? We can just submit. can just make the request. So if I send this request now, and I have what the item number of what of 10, right? Which is what this other view, this other function, so what is firing up. Okay, is that okay? Do we understand? Do we understand? Question. Yes, sir. Ibrahim, this is the beginning of Fast API. Now here, our journey starts. Question. No question. No question. No question. All right. So, well, we started late. Sorry about that. And we also, my device is, I think, port confliction. So actually make us spend a lot of time trying to actually debug that. So I would have said, let us move. We've ended up not even doing what we're supposed to do for today, but there's no problem. No problem. So what I would do is I would leave this topic and then we'll treat it appropriately in our next class. Parameterized routing. All right. So I don't want to start and not finish it. I want to start and finish it. So we couldn't come here, right, due to the fact that we started late, and also port conflict took place, and we had to fix that up. But not to worry, the curriculum will still be covered as expected to, right, as expected to. So someone hands up, please unmute and ask your question before we run up.
Hello, sir.
Yes,
Yeah, so the thing is that I was not around during Monday's class, so I was waiting to watch the video
okay.
because I don't really understand the we imported from Fast API, so I was not around when we were creating the Fast API. I just hope by today I'll be able to get it.
Yeah, the video should be available.
Thank you.
Yeah, the video should be available. So Miss Precious, your hand is up as well.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, ma.
That is, I attended the last class and I installed Fast API, but I'm trying to import it and it's not showing.
It's not showing. It's underlined. Okay, so one thing we should also do again, because I think did I do that in our last class? So once you have your dependencies, right? So I believe that all of us were there when we did the dependencies, when we created the folder alongside with what the dependency folder. What you want to do is that you want to point your working files, which in this case your main.py file, to that particular dependency. Because the thing is that by default, VS Code will point to your root Python directory. And you don't want to point to root Python directory. That's because we're not going to install Fast API in the root Python directory. Then we are installing Fast API to a folder that we can just simply right click and delete and it's gone, right? So by default, Fast API, VS Code will want to point to that root directory. So you want to change that. Sorry if I not said that in my last slide. You have to change that for it to point to that folder that we just created for Fast API. And to do that, we use the command Control plus Shift plus P. So let me put it down somewhere. I'm probably zoom it out. Control plus Shift plus P. So you want to do this. You want to do Control plus Shift plus P, and you should have you should have a palette pop up. So how Control plus Shift plus P, and this will pop up. A palette, something like this will pop up on your VS Code. Please, you want to make sure that before you do Control plus Shift plus P, that your cursor is in the file, like on your main.py file, not outside here. So you want to click inside your main.py file and then do Control Shift plus P, and this will come up. So what you want to look for, you may actually see this same thing that's showing on my screen. Yours may be longer than this. Now, why mine is that this is because I've been doing this often. So you just bring it out for me. So what you want to do is you want to search for interpreter, and you should have Python select interpreter. So I've been using mine quite often. That's why it's there, as recently used. So you want to click on Python select interpreter, and then you can say I have a lot of interpreters, right? So this is the default one. The default one is stays here, right? The global. So that's when you did the installation, that's where you went to. That's where your Python has been installed to. So by default, Fast API, we want to use that directory for interpreting your Python code, but you don't want that to be the case. You want to choose the new environment we just created for this project. So you want to do this for all your projects, right? So if you get a new environment for a new project, please do this for that project too. So you want to go to where you see enter interpreter part. So click on enter interpreter part, and then click on find, right? Find, and then you click on the find. It open your file directory, or your file explorer. Now you want to navigate to where your VNV folder is. So in my case, it's in desktop. It's in KodeCamp 4 beginner. And we want to go to that specific project, right? We want to go to the VNV for that project, which in this case is project 1. And then I want to go to this VNV folder. So this is the interpreter that we want to use for this project. So we click on VNV, we click on script, and then you want to find Python, right? So you should see Python. So it's somewhere around here. So this is python.exe. So you want to use that as the interpreter of this. So you click on that python.exe. You may have a lot of exe file here, but you're looking for python.exe, not python.exe, but python itself.exe. And then you know what? Click it, select interpreter, right? And after a few seconds, that will do a work. Now, if you don't do that, you see that for each time you try to import something, it will always be yellow. And sorry, it will end up drawing a warning line or an error line. And the reason is that the current interpreter that you're using does not see fast API. So to solve that, you need to do that, and that will solve your problem. Is that okay?
Yes, sir. It's working now. Thank you.
All right. Perfect. Mr. Abada, question, your hand is up.
Okay, sir. So my question is concerning the LMS this thing.
Okay.
I was not promoted because of one particular question I did not submit. So I have submitted it and I tried reaching out to you, but it seems you were busy.
You've submitted it. All right. So
Yes, I've included the question to the link. I've included the answer to the question to the link. So I don't know whether I could be regraded.
You can be regraded, but you think that you will not be above 75, unfortunately. But 75 is all you need now, sir. So I think that you should sharply collect the 75, eh?
Yeah, I will take it. Thank you, sir.
All right, no problem. Okay. Any other question before we run it off?
Okay, sir, I have one.
Okay. Mr. Gaius.
Okay,
Is that
so
okay, Mr. Elvis?
Elvis, yes. So for the postman, please, I didn't see how you set up the workspace for you to like test the endpoints that you are testing. So I don't know if it's in the next class that you do that.
No, I did that. No, I actually do that, but then I asked us that we should install Postman. So the process is quite easy.
Yeah,
So okay, see, once you finish the installation, right? Postman will require you to do what Postman will require you to do what to sign up or sign in if you already have account with them. So you do any of them. So once you've done that by default, this is how you should see post. Once you open it for the first time, this is how you should see it. So close all of this for now. Then save. So this is what you see, like an empty space like this, right? So something like this, right? Nothing to show here with all this tab that we're having here would be empty, right? All this tab we're having there would be empty, right? So, and what we want to do now is for you to you look at up there and you see this plus sign. All right. I believe I've seen that plus sign there, right?
yes, I can see it.
Yeah. So now this plus sign would be somewhere closer to
I
this.
can see it.
Okay. So this sign would be somewhere closer to this point. Okay. So you want to click on that and this will give you like a page where you can make your request. You have an empty or a URL space there, or more like a text field space. So there you want to do what? You want to type your URL. So what you want to do is that you can just simply copy your URL and come there. Right. So since you know that your first API is running on port 8, just copy the default route. Then you can then come and attach the relative path. So the default route that the default path, the default domain that this man here will provide for you, you want to copy that. Which in this case, I'm trying to see if I can put up. Trying to break the server, but the server says not to be breaking. All right, so you want to copy that up, and which it will be something like this. It will be something like this without this relative path. So you want to paste that there, and then you want to now attach your relative path if there was a relative path. So if was something like /review, then you just put your /review there, and then you choose the appropriate request. So if it's get, then you leave then you choose get. If it's post, then you choose post. Like I said, in this track, we will deal with just get and post, but it's a particular track. Okay, and then you do what? You click send, and it will send that request. So Postman will automatically, if he asks you for permission to allow other origins to access it, then just go ahead and click on yes. But if it doesn't, then there's no problem. It will automatically just make that request to your local host, and it will fetch the appropriate information for that URL. So there's nothing quite complex. Is that okay?
Yeah, yes, sir. And also, sir, I submitted my tax, the last tax. That was the day before yesterday.
Okay.
And it has not been paid yet. Thank you.
That will be done. That will be done. That will be done. Don't worry about fear not. There is no tax this week. Tax will come next week. So everybody has to. If you're still having problem with tax, all the problems should be sorted out this week, because next week everything will start moving in order. See that duration thing from next week. Take it very personal. When tax is being posted and then and duration has passed, then there's a problem. Right. So, Mr. Gaius, please unmute and ask a question.
Yes, sir. I saw your message. Please, how will I update the link on the LMS?
How will you update the link on the LMS? On the LMS. Okay, this is what you do, Mr. Gaius. You cannot upload that link because that's not a Google Drive link. If there was a Google folder link, I would have said go back to your folder and delete the file, and and put another one there. What you do is you
Yes,
send
sir.
the link to my DM and upload it. You cannot update once you submit. You can't change it. You can't change that link. So send the correct
Okay.
link to my DM, and from there.
Okay, sir.
Then Mr. I can't remember his name, but there's someone I'm looking for. Just find the person maybe later. Someone I'm looking for, the person that actually did submit question last time. I'll find him. Don't worry. Cloud is any rep available? Gina Azom.
Yes, sir.
Yes, there's a man we are looking for, and the man that had an emergency, and for that reason he could not submit the task. He submitted the question. Can't remember him, but I'm looking for him. But if you can find him, then tell him to at least submit the appropriate link then to my team as well.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, so those are the two people that should come to my team. Please, Mr. Gaius and him. So, Miss Precious, your hand is up.
Right. Sir, please, I want to make a request.
You want to make a request? You go ahead and import the request module and make a request.
Sir, please, I want to ask if the recording can be uploaded as soon as possible.
It will be uploaded.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
So that is a good request. Just all right. Any other question?
Okay, sir. Just at the beginning, at your command prompt,
Okay.
you did change the directory to KodeCamp project 1 and then your VMV. Is that correct? And then you activate.
Yes, yes. I need to be in the thing that you can't activate your VMV if you're not in this project one folder. So I had to come to so I can access VMV. This is that folder there. So you have to change directory to project one. Then after that, after I've activated my VMV, I now moved to what to my main folder. And that was how I opened that up in VS Code.
Okay.
Yes. Any other question? All right, no other question. So it seems today we are scanty. We are about 13 of us. We are raising a number at the time as we are
Sorry, sir. When I try to activate on this command, it says activate not recognized as an internal or external command.
Yeah, basically confirm that you're typing VNV for the folder name, followed by script, followed by activate. That's
ENV.
okay. Yes, that's the folder name. Whatever you named your virtual environment, if it is VNV, then VENV
Yes.
script slash activate.
Okay. Thank you.
That's actually yes. Where is where is who haven't spoken to in this class? All right, guys. So, is there any other question? I don't think there should be. No other question. All right, guys. So, in the absence of question, we wrap it up there for today. And by next week, we should start writing parameter